Good evening to everyone and welcome to the SPM Revision Seminar Online. And today's subject is Maths. Before I introduce to you to the speaker, anyone who would like to ask a question answered by the speaker, please post your questions on the chat box so we can read them out during the Q&A session. Besides that, for the Form 5 students this year, we are offering School Achievers Scholarship Award. SASA. So we do highly encourage all Form 5 viewers to submit your application through our webpage. For more information, please log on to our webpage to find out more. And also students, don't forget, we also have the storyboard competition at Cool Z at Help. The link is in SPM Revision Seminar Facebook. So if you're interested to win vouchers and movie tickets, do submit it, and the due date is 25th September. We will be posting every Saturday a new competition on Cool Z at Help. So do join and win amazing gift. So today we have Miss Rani, lecturer from the Department of American and Canadian Education, as the speaker for today. I will hand it over to you, Miss Rani. Over to you.
Thank you, Mohan. Selamat petang para pelajar. Selamat datang ke sesi ulang kaji matematik tambahan yang dianjurkan oleh University Help. Saya berharap para pelajar telah meluangkan masa selama 30 minit setiap hari untuk membuat ulang kaji soalan-soalan tahun-tahun lepas ataupun dari buku-buku rujukan yang saudara ada. Di sini cikgu ingin menekankan topik-topik yang perlu para pelajar lemah memberi tumpuan kepada. Daripada topik-topik itu, pada hari ini kita akan bincangkan dua topik yang para pelajar lemah boleh sure 100% boleh buat topik ni, iaitu persamaan kuadratik dan fungsi kuadratik. Okey. So, cikgu akan meneruskan sesi ini dalam bahasa Inggeris. Okay, our chapter for today is quadratic equation and quadratic function. This is chapter 2 and chapter 3 from your SPM Maths. Okay, from 4 subject. Okay, in your chapter 2, the topic you need to concentrate or the subtopic are the roots. What are meant by roots? And how to solve quadratic equation, and what is the condition for type of roots for quadratic equation. And in your SPM paper 1, there's always 1 or 2 questions that's based on this topic. Whereas in chapter 3, that is quadratic function, the subtopic that students have to concentrate is how is the graph of quadratic function look like, how to find maximum and minimum value, and how to solve quadratic inequality. And there's always 2 questions in paper 1 from this chapter. And for a few years, the last was in 2016, there was 1 question in paper 2 in part A. So far for the last 4 years, there wasn't any question. There might be a chance this year you might have a question in paper 2, at least 1 question. Okay, so let's go the important criteria that students need to know from each topic. So in the chapter 2, quadratic equation, students need to know the general form of your quadratic equation is given as ax squared plus bx plus c, and a cannot be 0 because the highest degree must be 2. For a quadratic equation, the highest degree must be 2, so a cannot be 0. Okay, what is meant by root of quadratic equation? It is the value of x that satisfies the quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. And how can a student find the roots of this quadratic equation? There are 3 methods here. Factorization is the simplest method, But if students have problems solving it by factorization method, I advise students to remember your quadratic formula. This is the most easiest because the formula is fixed. You just need to know what is the coefficient A, B, and C. Just substitute into the formula, use your calculator, you can simplify, and your answer can be a fraction, can be a round figure, or can be in decimal. So this is the best method if you have problem with factorization. But some question might ask you to use completing the square. If this is required, then you use the method to solve it, or the question will be given in this form. The next thing that you need to know is how to form a quadratic equation if you are given some roots. So let's say you're given alpha and beta are the root for the quadratic equation. Remember, there's only a maximum of 2 roots. So you can form the equation by putting the roots in. So you have x minus alpha, x minus beta, expand it, and compare with the original format of your quadratic equation. So when you do the comparison here, what you can see is the sum of your root, alpha plus beta, is equivalent to negative b over a. And you also can see the product of the roots, that is alpha beta is equivalent to c over a. Okay, and the next thing, what are the type of root that you'll be looking at? Okay, remember this. When you're looking at type of roots, the word that is used, sometimes they use the word for b squared minus 4ac greater than 0. They use word distinct or different, or they can say at 2 distinct points. For equals to 0, they can say equal or repeated, or touches at 1 point on the axis or line. Less than 0, they normally use the word real, no real root or imaginary root, or do not intersect. There's one more word you always see, always positive or always negative. That means it's less than 0. This will show you what type of root. And this also applies in your next chapter, that is chapter 3, that is quadratic function. Okay, let's look at quadratic function. What is the important thing that you need to know about quadratic function is the shape of the graph. Okay, so the general form for quadratic function, it depends on your value of a. Is it greater than 0 or less than 0? Is it a positive or negative value? Okay, so what you see with the condition b squared minus 4ac greater than 0 equals to 0 or less than 0, what that means? It touches at 2 points, it intersects at 2 points, touches at 1 point, or it does not touch your axis. It can be x-axis or it can be any line. It's not necessarily it must be on x-axis. Remember that. And what happened if it's a less than 0? Same thing. It intersects at 2 points, or it touches at 1 point on the x-axis or any line, or it does not touch. Okay, so when I say always positive or always negative, that means when you have this as your x-axis, always positive means above your x-axis, always negative means below your x-axis. So the condition is b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Okay. Now, with the shape of your graph, you can see there is a minimum point when a is greater than 0, a maximum point when a is less than 0. So how to find your maximum and minimum point? So from the equation ax squared plus bx plus c, you are converting it using completing the square to this format. Okay, so from this format, what can you read is you read the a from the original itself. Is your a greater than 0, then we call it minimum because the lowest point. If a is less than 0, it's maximum. And how to read the coordinate for the maximum or minimum? Look at the completing the square format here. If you have a p here, you put it as negative p because you are equating this to 0, x plus p equals to 0. So you will get the coordinate for x is negative p. And what is your y coordinate? After you have done your completing the square, the value outside the square here, whatever the value here, that will be your y coordinate. This is one method to find maximum and minimum. I will show you another method. Some of you might have learned it. Most in the textbook, they don't give you the method. I will show you while I'm solving the question. Another word that's very important for you is axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry happen when your x equals to negative p. That is where your axis of symmetry take place. That means the midpoint between, if you have two roots for quadratic equation, it will be the midpoint between the roots. And this is where your maximum or minimum point take place, your x value. Okay, we will see through question. And then the last part for this chapter 3 quadratic function is your quadratic inequalities. Okay, in school, mainly students use quadratic curve to solve quadratic inequality. There is some school, they might teach you to use number line. So there's two ways you can do it. Either use your quadratic curve or you can use your number line. So let's say if I'm giving this question, I say is greater than 0. Greater than 0 means above your x-axis. This is your x-axis. So greater than 0 means above x-axis means you're shading this region. So if you are given the point here, let's say it's A. Sorry guys, my pen. Okay, let's say this point we call it, sorry, my slide ran already. Okay. So if you're given the point A and the point B, so above your x-axis means between A and B. Okay, so you write your answer will be x between A and B, above your x-axis. If I change the inequality to less, then you have to shade the region below your x-axis. What happens if you are using a number line? Let's say this point, I call it A. And this point, I call it B. Okay, the first point is A and the second point is B. Okay, so I'll show you how to do this number line when we're solving question. So if I say it's less than 0, you need to know the arrows here shows the positive value for each of the factors. When there's no arrow, it shows the negative value. So you need to find out the total here when you multiply the two factors, whether it's positive or negative. So from there, less than 0 will be the part which is after the multiplication give you a negative value. Okay, so that will be your number line. I'll show this through an example. So these are the main things you will be asked during your SPM at Maths. For these two topics, they are interrelated. So remember both topic, quadratic equation and quadratic function, they are interrelated. So make sure the words that use, you be careful what they ask you to find. So let's go to the first question. Okay, this is from last year. One of the questions given last year. So I'm going to underline the important word here is two equal roots. Okay, the first quadratic equation is given as two equal roots. Remember what it means. And the second given as no roots. So they ask you to solve this and find out Q in terms of H. This is what we wanted. So always when you have a question, please, if possible, underline the important words here. So let's look at the first one. Px squared 5qx plus 4 equals to 0. So when you say two equal roots, so what you are looking at, the word equal says b squared minus 4ac equals to 0. Remember the term I've given you in the previous slide? Equal means b squared minus 4 equals ac equals to 0. So what is your ABC? The coefficient in front of your x squared is called your A, in front of your x is your b, and the one without x is your c. So put it in, so you have 5 square minus 4 times p times 4. And then we try to simplify this. We might not be able to solve because there are 2 unknown here. So what we have is, sorry, I missed out the square here. Because this one, the whole thing square, so it's p square. Okay, so you have 16p square equals to 0. So what we have is 16p square is equals to 25q square. So I want to put p in terms of q, so that then later I can write q in terms of h. So your p, if you take the, bring it across and take the square root, so you will get plus minus 5 over 4q. So this is equation 1. We can't solve it yet. Now using the second function, a second equation given to you, this is minus x plus p equals to 0. So what they say no roots. So what means by the word no roots here? Okay, no roots here means your b square minus 4ac is less than 0. Okay, no roots, refer back to the table just now I showed you. So what is your a, b, c? A is h, b is -1, and c is p. Okay, put it in. Okay, what we do is we try to make p as a subject so we can connect with the first equation. So what we have is -4hp is less than, this will be 1, bring it across. So you have p. Remember when you divide by a negative number, there's a changes in your inequality sign. So it becomes 1 over 4h. This is equation 2. Okay, now look at equation 1 and 2. Substitute 1 into 2. So replace your p with positive as well as negative. So you have 2 sets of answer. So the first one, let's say we use positive. So we have 5, 1 into 2. So you have 5 over 4p. That is the 5 over q equals greater than, just greater, okay, 1 over 4h. So what do you have? Bring it across the 5 over 4, so it becomes greater than 1 over 5h. This is your first set of answer. If I use negative, so it's -5 over 4q greater than 4 over 4, 1 over 4h. So bring it across. Remember, when you multiply or divide a negative number, there's a changes in the sign. So it becomes less than -1 over 5h. That is what the question wanted. Q in terms of h. So remember, the words very important is 2 equal root, no root. All these are important words you have to concentrate. What kind of type of roots it belongs to. Okay, so let's look at the next question. Okay, similar, when you read the question, please find out what is the question wanted. Okay, they say one of the root of this is the negative of the other. Okay, so you're given a quadratic equation. You're given one of the root is negative of the other. So they ask you to find the product. Okay, so let's solve question A. So you have x squared. I just write the equation first. Okay. So what are the roots? You can call it whichever names you want. Normally we use alpha and beta. You can use any letter you want. So let's use alpha. So if one is called alpha, the other one is negative alpha. So first of all, we find the sum, because there will be a link to the product. So what is the sum? Sum it up, alpha plus negative alpha. Remember what is sum stand for? Negative B over A. which is, remember what is your A, B, C. So your A is 1, B is P plus 3, and your C is negative P squared. So negative B means negative P plus 3 over 1. So from here, what do you see? Alpha plus negative alpha is 0. Is equals to negative P plus minus 3. Open up the bracket. So from here, what do you get? P equals to negative 3. So you already solved the P. Now using this, we can find the product because we need the value of P. If not, you cannot solve the product. So what is the product of roots? Okay, product is also given as, you no need to multiply these two because we don't know what is alpha and negative alpha. Straight away, we know product is C over A. Product is C over A, which is, C is given as negative P square over A. A is 1. And since you already found what is your P, so you put negative square over 1. So what do you have? The answer is negative 9. That answer your question A. Okay. So from the sum, we can find the product because there is a connection, because we need to know P before we can solve for the product. Now part B is a relationship with your type of roots. So what is given here? 2 equal root. It's a different question, but the word 2 equal root. What means by 2 equal root? Let me write the question first. Remember, 2 equal roots stand for the type of root that you need to look at. So 2 equal roots means b square minus 4ac equals to 0. Equal sign, equal root. Okay, so what is your A, B, C? So your A is m, B is negative 5n, and C is 4m. So let's put it in. Minus 4, your A is m, and C is 4. M equals to 0. Okay, what you get is 25n square minus 16m square equals to 0. Okay, what the question wanted? They wanted you to write in this form. This is called the ratio form. M with the ratio of n. So what we have is, I bring it across. So the negative become positive. So what we have is, in this form, so bring your m and n together, the numbers together. So you have this, and as what you know is, this one can put it as a square form, same as this, 5 over 4 square. So very clear, m ratio with n is equals to 5 against 4. That is your answer. Okay, so very important is the term 2 equal root. This is the term that you need to concentrate on. Okay, so let's go to another SPM question, a different type. Okay, this is your quadratic function. Function means chapter 3, and the word is maximum. So when you talk about maximum point, remember your A, if you put in a general form, your A must be less than 0. In your general form, recall back the graph I shown you at the beginning, A must be less than 0. So they say the P here is an integer between -2 and 2. And this P is like a A here. So it must take a number less than 0. So what are the possible number less than 0? Since there's no equal sign here, so for question A must be less than 0 according to a rule. So in this case, since P cannot be -2 because there's no equal sign, so the only possibility is P is -1. Nothing much to do. You just need to know what is your basic concept and look at the range given here, which are the possible number. Since the word is maximum, so A must be less than 0. So the value for P, which is your A, in this case is written as P, must be -1. That's all. Now using this answer in A, so using this answer, we want to find the value of Q when the graph touches, okay, again, these are important words, touches at one point. So let's write the equation first in terms, replace your P with -1. So what we have, -1x squared minus 8x plus Q. So now they say touches at one point. This is another way to say, if you look back, touches at one point is the same as saying two equal root. Okay, this is another way a question can be asked, but the meaning is the same, which is b squared minus 4ac equals to 0. Refer back to the slide I've given you all the words that might be used for different type of roots. So what is your A, B, C here? So your A is -1, B is -8, and C is Q. So put it in -8. A is -1 and Q so equals to 0. Okay, let's solve this. So what we have is 64 plus 4Q. So your 4Q is -64. This is not inequality sign, so there is no changes in sign, nothing. So it's an equal sign. So from here you get your Q is -16. That already answered the question. Find the value of Q. That's what the question wanted. So please remember the words used for different type of equation. So you have to be careful. Okay, touches at one point is another way saying that's two equal repeated root. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, this is the last time a question about quadratic function was in SPM paper 2, quadratic function in 2016. After 2016, there wasn't any question in paper 2. So if there's a chance to have a question, you might have few parts. So you need to know it's always come from mainly from quadratic function. Okay, look at the quadratic function here and look at the words given here. Intersect x-axis at these 2 points. And another word very important, the line y is -h touches the minimum. The word minimum is very important. This is the shape. I already drawn the shape of the graph. So the lowest point here, is your y value is -8. So we want to know what is the x value for it. Okay, but what can you see is there are two set of coordinate here given. One is 10, one is 50. Okay, so remember the word when you're looking at a maximum or minimum point, the axis of symmetry happen at the midpoint of the two given point here. This is the point is intersect your x-axis. So your midpoint here, the line that you're going to draw in the center, that's your axis of symmetry, must be a midpoint between 1 and 5. X is 1 and 5. So to find your value H is your value for the axis of symmetry. So you find the midpoint. So the midpoint here, how to calculate your midpoint? You take the x value for the two intercept, which is 1 and 5, divide by 2, so you get 3. So another word, your H equals to 3. So you already answer your H. Now how about K? As what you see here, this is a quadratic function. So your value, the lowest point here is referred to your, when you do your completing the square, your lowest point is referred to 2k. So what you can see when you're doing a completing a square, remember the format I've given you, ax plus p square plus q. So this q shows you the maximum or the minimum point. So in this case, it's the minimum point, and your q now is 2k. So your 2k is equals to -8. So what is your value of k? -4. So you have solved your part A. Now in part B, what they ask you to find is sketch the graph, but you must have between 0 and 6. Not only 1 and 5, you need to find out when x is 0 as well as x is 6. So what we do is, since you already have your value of h and k, so let's put it in x minus 3, because your h is 3, and 2k equals to -8. So what you do is find out when it's 0. When x is 0, what is the value? So put in 0, so you have 9 times 2 minus 8, so you get 10. Then you put in 6. So you have, because the highest value here given is 6, the range. So 6 minus 3, then square times 2 minus 8 is also 10. So your endpoints here are 10, and you have the point 1, 0 and 5, 0 as well as your minimum point. So your minimum point is 3, -8, fall at this point, at the lowest point. So the one highest here, this will be 10. Okay, so it's one straight line. At the point x is 0 as well at the point x equals to 6. So roughly the shape of your graph here, so you can include the point 1 here and the point 5 here. Sorry, I couldn't include the point. So you can put it the point and draw the graph. A rough sketch is enough because the word is sketch. So important point is your minimum point, the 2 intercept given, and the 2 value that you have found for 0 and 6. Put it in and sketch the graph. Okay, now part C. What happens if I reflect about x-axis? Pantulan pada paksi x. Okay, when you reflect me, you are turning it from a smiling face. Can you see? This is called a smiling face, become a sad face. So what will be the equation of the curve? So if you want to know the equation of curve, since you are doing a reflection on your x-axis, you just put a negative in front of the function given here. So 2x minus 3 square minus 8. So what we have, this will be your answer. So if they continue from here, if they ask you to find what will be the maximum point, from minimum it becomes maximum point. So you can read it. The maximum, if the question asks, so your maximum point will be 3, 8. From 3, -8 become 3, 8. That will be your maximum point. Okay, this is your paper 2 question. It carry about 6 to 8 marks. So important word, please underline and see what it means and follow exactly what I advise you, what type of route, what the question wanted, and how to go about solving it. Okay. Now looking at quadratic inequalities. There always a question on quadratic inequality. It can stand by itself or it can be combined in another question. So how this is done? They ask you to find the range value of x such that this is negative. There is no unknown here. Every numbers are given. So you cannot use b squared minus 4ac. B squared minus 4ac is used if one of these coefficients is unknown. Then you follow the instruction the question have given. So you see whether b square minus 4ac is greater, less or equals to 0. But in this question, they say the function is negative. So another word you're saying fx is less than 0. So what you're saying is 6 plus 5x minus x squared is less than 0. So if you can factorize this, which can be done easily. So if you are not sure of factorizing this, then you can use quadratic formula. So what you have is 6 minus x, and you have x plus 1. Okay, there are two ways to solve this. One way is using your quadratic curve. Another way is using your number line. So that's what I have shown previously. So if you see whichever way you choose to do, you can follow, but be careful. Is it a smiling face or a sad face? Looking at the original question, what you can see is A is less than 0. So it must be a sad face. Okay, draw a line. This is your axis. So put the smallest value on the left, the largest value on the right. So it's -1 from here when you equate it to 0 and 6 over here. So less than 0 in means below your x-axis. So you shade the region below your x-axis. So from here, what will be your answer? So x must be less than -1. Or x must be greater than 6. This is one way of solving it. Okay, let me show you using number line. So if you're using number line, what they are doing, the same question, 6 plus 5x minus x squared. If you're using number line, I prefer you to make sure that -x squared is always a positive number. So what we do is we multiply with -1. It's easier to factorize. So when you multiply by a negative number both sides, there's a changes in inequality sign. So 0 times anything is still 0. What will be the changes take place here? Right from the highest order to the lowest. So be careful, the positive become negative, the negative become positive. Now easier for you to factorize. So it will be the same way you factorized just now. It's the same thing. You will have plus and minus sign. A different way is written because just now we are using a less than 0. Here is a now a positive. But don't worry, even if you are using this, you can draw a smiling face because a is positive. And you can draw the line. And the point are still the same, -1, 6. And you're saying greater than 0 will be shading the upper part. So can you see the answer will still be the same? X will be less than -1 or x greater than 6. But now, let's say if I'm using a number line. What I do is I break it into two parts. Okay, -1 here and 6 here. We always draw an arrow toward right. That shows the positive. So from 6, that is for this factor, I'm drawing an arrow to the right. For -1, I'm using the first factor, I'm drawing to the right. Whenever you see an arrow, that means it's positive number. When there is no arrow, it means negative. So there's no arrow, this is negative. So what you're doing here is multiplication. So when you multiply two negative numbers, you get positive. When you multiply positive and negative, you get a negative. When you multiply two positive numbers, you get a positive because this shows multiplication of the factors. What the question wanted, greater than 0. I'm using this function, not the original, because from here I plot this graph. So it must be greater than 0. So your value must be less than -1, which is positive, or greater than 6, which is also positive. So this is the way for you to solve. So important for you to know your value A and what the question wanted is always negative. Okay, whether you use quadratic curve or number line, up to you, both will give you the same result. Which one you prefer? Sorry, I couldn't use the graph here, so I'm drawing it separately. So same thing, this I'm supposed to draw it. So let's go to the next question. Okay, these are questions from higher order thinking scale from other books or other colleges. I need to show you the various way question can be asked. Okay, looking at the graph here, there's a Q here as your y-intercept. There's a square root Q here as your x-intercept. So they ask you to find the value of Q. So how to find the value of Q? What is given here? One of the point is given here, which is 2, 0. So to answer part A, since given to you 2, 0, what this means is your x is 2, your y is 0. So it must satisfy this quadratic function. So since your fx 2x squared minus 12x plus q, so your y is also known as fx. You replace it with 0. Your x, you replace it with 2. So what we have? So put it in plus q. So from here, can we find what is q? So solving this equation, so what we have is 8. So we want to find what is q. So q will be equivalent to 16. Just bring it across. So you've answered part A. Now part B. Since you already know what is q, so from here, square root q means is square root 16. So it means the coordinate here that intercept the x-axis again will be at 4. Okay, so you already know 2 and 4. So now they ask you to find the range of value for fx greater than 0. Inequalities. Fx greater than 0 means above your x-axis. So above x-axis means you're shading this region and this region. So what is the value of x that satisfies this region? So fx must be greater than 0. So looking from the graph, you don't need to do any calculation, just straight from the graph. You can say x is less than 2 or x must be greater than 4. That's it, above x-axis. Okay, so let's look at another question. Okay, remember forming a quadratic equation, or if you are given a different type of roots. Okay, so you're given this quadratic equation and they say the root is 1 over p and q. Find out the value p and q. Okay, so first of all, let's write out this equation. Remember, your equation on your right hand side must be 0. This is not 0. So you have to bring everything across. So let me write the question first. Okay, this is your question. Bring it across the 6x because you must have 0. So what we have is px squared. When you bring across the 6x, it becomes negative 6. Since I have taken out the negative, so it becomes p plus q plus 6x. Okay. Since you are given the root, first of all, let's find out what is your ABC using your general form. So your A is P, your B is negative P plus Q plus 6, and your C is 4Q minus 6. Okay, what are the roots given? The roots that is given to you is 1 over P and Q. So you want to find the sum. Plus this up, so 1 over p plus q must equals to negative b over a. Remember your formula? So negative b over a. So when you simplify negative and negative, so you're just left with this. Okay, because the negative and negative cancel off. So if you want to simplify this, so what you have is 1 plus PQ over P equals to P plus Q plus 6 over P. So when you bring across the P, it will cancel off. So you're only left 1 plus PQ, okay, equation 1. You can't solve it because there are P and Q unknown. So we need to do the second part, that is product. So how to do product? Multiply the two roots, so 1 over P times your Q must equals to C over A, remember your formula. So what is your C? Your C is 4Q minus 6 over your A equals to P. Okay, so what you see, let me rewrite this. Can you see the P and P? When you bring it across, it will cancel off. So what you're left, only this. Okay, so with this, you can see there's only one unknown. I can solve this, find out my Q, then substitute into equation 1. So from here, what I get is negative 3Q equals to negative 6. So Q is 2. So substitute this value into 1. So what we have? 1 plus, remember your Q is 2. So you get 2P equals to P plus 2 plus 6. So bringing all your P's together, all your constant together, so what you have? P, you have 8 minus 1, so 7. So you have found your answer, that is Q is 2 and P is 7. Okay, so this is related to roots. So when you given a roots with what given the name of the root, whether alpha, beta, or whichever term, follow accordingly, find out the sum, the product. Some of these might form two equations, then you have to solve it to find the unknown that is given. Okay? Okay, recall back just now I told you I'm going to show you a method how to find maximum and minimum. So what you see here is you are given two functions and they say it has the same axis of symmetry. One of it is with the A is greater than 0. So this is a minimum point. This is A less than 0 because there's a negative. This is a maximum point. But their axis of symmetry are the same. So if their axis of symmetry are the same, can you find what is H here stand for? It must be related to this because it will be the same as the value for axis of symmetry here. But how to solve axis of symmetry here? One way that was taught in school is using completing the square. But I'm going to show you another method. Let's say we call it, this is the second method. Let me write the equation. Fx equals to x squared minus 4x. Okay, so and your gx, let me just write it out. Negative x minus h squared plus k. So now, since we want to find h, we need to use from the first function here fx to find what is h, and then later we solve for k. So axis of symmetry is the value of x. So from fx, okay, what I'm going to do is from fx, I need to find out what is a. A is the coefficient here is 1 and b is negative 4. How to find the value of x? This is your axis of symmetry. Okay, you might use completing the square. Some school might have taught this. The formula is very easy. You just remember the formula negative b over 2a. This formula is found from your quadratic formula. Okay, this formula is from your quadratic formula when b squared minus 4ac is 0. Okay, so from here, just put it in. So your b is negative 4 over 2 times 1. So your answer is, this is positive, positive, so you will get 2. So this 2 is your h. Therefore, your H is 2 because it's the same axis of symmetry. Solve it. You no need to use completing the square. You only need to know this formula, negative b over 2a. This is from quadratic formula. And then how to find k. So to find k, what you are given here is this. Your function, your second function gx intercept y-axis at 0, 5. So what this means? That means when x is 0, y is 5. So your second function gx, let me write it again by putting in your h. So what we have is x minus 2 because h is found plus k. Okay, so since the intercept is 0, 5 means your x value is 0, your y value is 5. So that means your gx is 5. 0 minus 2 squared plus k. So solve this. So you have. So you already found your k, 9. So that is your answer for h and k. So the one I was emphasizing just now was this formula. If you are given in a general form, if you know what is your a and b, just use negative b over 2a to find your x value. So if you want to find your y value, what you need to do is substitute this x value into the whatever function, you will get your y value because the function will satisfy this. So if you are given the x value, put it in, it will give you the y value. So you can get your maximum coordinate or your minimum coordinate. That is your coordinate x and y. Okay, so that's how you do it. So let's do, I have one more question here. Okay, we have not seen the word does not intersect. Okay, right now we are looking at the word does not intersect. What means by does not intersect? This is another word saying there is no roots. Another word saying no roots. I've given you in the table during my intro. So you have a curve and a line. So it does not intersect means what we do is we try to use simultaneous equation to put it together, and then you say there is no root, or another word, no solution. That means you cannot solve. So let's do this. So y minus x squared equals to 2. This is equation 1. Y equals to k 1 minus 2x. This is equation 2. Okay, so substitute 2 into 1. What we have is, put it in. So k 1 minus 2x minus x squared equals to 2. Okay, when we are solving, we love to arrange from the highest order to the lowest and make sure on your right hand side is 0. So let's expand this. Bring all to the same side. Make sure the one with x squared is positive. So it's easier for us to find. Even if negatives, there's no problem. So I'm going to rearrange the equation, bringing it across. So what I have is x squared minus 2kx, so bring it across, plus 2 minus k equals to 0. So it's the same equation, bring it across. So from here, what you found? A equals to 1, B is negative 2k, and C equals to 2 minus k. So the word say does not intersect. So what that means? Your b squared minus 4ac less than 0. Does not intersect means no roots. No roots means b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. So you already have your ABC, put it in. Negative 2k squared minus 4 times a times your c. Okay, so you have 4k squared. Expand this, minus 8 plus 4k less than 0. What you see, again, you saw a quadratic equation. quadratic inequality, sorry. So what we need to do is we need to factorize. But I see some common factor. Why don't I simplify this first? Divide by 4. And then I can factorize. Okay. So remember, you can use your graph, quadratic curve, or you can use your number line. So the smallest value is -2 is over here and -1 is here. So the question say less than 0, that means below your x-axis. So you're going to shade this part of your graph. So what is your answer for K? So K will be between -2 and, sorry, this is +1. K minus 1 is +1, -2 and +1. That is your answer. So understand, does not intersect means first you substitute, make it as equation, then you're saying there is no solution for this quadratic equation. So no solution means there is no roots. So that means the two equation does not intersect. That means b squared minus 4ac less than 0. That is what we get. So that's how you solve your equation. And why am I drawing a smiling face here? You might ask. Look at the equation that we're going to use to plot this. You can see from here the value for A, this quadratic equation, A is positive. Positive means is a smiling face. So remember, always remember this. Okay, what we have is when A is greater than 0, we are looking at smiling face. Like I'm getting a lot of money, smiling. A less than 0 means I'm losing, so I'm having a sad face. Just remember your curve. Is your greater, you smile. You lose money, you be sad. Okay, that's how you remember the shape of graph. For those who have problem to remember, which is give you a minimum, this is minimum. This is minimum point. Here is maximum point. Okay, so that is few question on your past year and some higher order thinking scale on your quadratic equation and quadratic function. They are interrelated. So for those weak students, please select this question from paper 1. These are the easy questions for you to solve. And the one I told you 2 weeks ago, function is another question that is easy to solve. The one we did today is quadratic equation and quadratic function. So you only concentrate on certain topic. You don't need to study a lot, all the topic. Okay, so those weak students just concentrate on certain topics, score in that topic alone. Like paper 1, you only need to answer 10 questions if you want to pass paper 1. But sometimes if you have chance and you're good, you can do more than that and you can get a good result. So not to worry, from today onward, try to work it out as many as questions you can. So don't forget, spend 30 minutes every day, do some questions. So since I put up some questions on your Facebook, there are more questions I put up compared to the one I've given here. So please try out, and if you have any workbook, any buku rujukan or past year question, try on these two topics as well. So our next class will be next Wednesday, which I'm going to do indices and logarithma and also statistics, these two topics at the same time at the same place. So until then, I want you to keep on practicing. Practice, practice, practice. That will make you perfect. By the time SPM start, you will pass. I guarantee you. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mohan.
Miss Rani, just Okay, Miss Rani, I'll just put up a slider. Just give me a second.
Okay, guys. Okay, I have seen a few questions that were asked here. The first question was asked was in SPM 2017, question 13. Why the product of root is multiplied with negative sign? If you see the question given there, your product is given, your C is negative P square. There's a negative in front there, negative P square, where your P itself is negative 3. So negative in a bracket, negative 3 square. So that's why your answer is negative 9. Don't miss out the value negative is given in the question. I hope that answer your question. Okay, student have asked me formula for completing the square. I can show it in a while. Let me go to the next question. When to use B divided by A and C divided by A? Okay, when you have a question on finding given to you originally alpha and beta is a root, and then they ask you to form a new root or anything that related to the question. Remember this. So you might have in the original question your A, B, C. Okay, whatever the coefficient A, B, C. So your sum will be negative BOA. Don't forget there's a negative. So negative BOA, and your product will be C over A. So when you need to use it, if you have alpha and beta given, and now they ask you to find for 3 alpha and 3 beta, what will be your equation? So from the original question, find out what is the sum, the product, and you use to form a new equation, which involve 3 alpha, 3 beta. You can see this in the question I given you in the Facebook. I've given you some question based on that. So you must understand when to use it. Is it you're forming a new equation, or you're finding something is unknown in the original question? That's very important. Okay. The next question. The curve does not intersect the line. Then why should we substitute the equation of line into the curve? So when I say the curve does not intersect, so when I substitute, will you get a solution? No, you will not get a solution. That's why we say there's no root, there's no solution that satisfies the equation. That's how we solve the question. Okay, we still substitute in, but what happened is there is no solution. Or another word, there's no roots that satisfy the equation of the curve as well as the line. Okay, I hope that answer your question. And if a next question, if I'm given an equation of a curve and told to find the maximum point, what should I do? Okay, if you are given an equation of a curve, so you might be given ax squared plus bx plus c. They didn't mention to you, are you using completing the square or what? So remember the method, the second method I taught you, negative b over 2a. You can use that because paper 1, if a question asks, the important is given on the answer. If your answer is correct, you already got the full mark. If your answer is wrong, they will look into your working. So either way, do it both whether you're using completing the square or you're using negative b over 2a, both will get full mark if your answer is correct and complete. Okay? Okay. Y is 1 plus PQ over P. Okay, what is 1 plus PQ over P? This was the question. If the student, if you refer back to the question that I've given to you just now, 1 over P plus Q. The two roots is 1 over P plus Q. Okay, so when the root is 1 over P plus Q, you must make the denominator the same. So it becomes 1 plus PQ, the whole thing divided by P, not only part, the whole thing. Okay, the whole thing become P. Okay, now we go back to the completing the square method. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me just take, I'm just using this. Don't worry about the question, I'm just showing you how to do the completing the square method. So whatever your question is, let me just give you a question. This is not for this question, completing the square. Okay, first of all, if you have a number in front of your x square, make sure you divide it, make it 1. So let's say, for example, I have a question in this form, where my number in front here is 1. So what we do is, you take all the term with x together, and the constant put it away. So now you need to add on 2 terms here. What are the 2 terms you're going to add on? One with the plus, one with the minus. The plus will come together with the x. The minus will come together with the constant. Okay, how to see this? But make sure this is the coefficient here, a must equals to 1. Make sure that a must equals to 1. If it's some other number, you need to factorize. So what we do here, you take the one with the linear. Linear means the one with the power of 1, whatever the coefficient in front here, whether it's positive 4 or negative 4, whatever the number. So in this case, positive 4 is always divide by 2. It's always divide by 2 square. And the same thing right again. So if you plus something, you must minus the same thing. So what this 3 become, take the one with the square, this become x. 4 divided by 2 is 2 square. And what this become? So this will be 4 divided by 2 is 2 square, will give you 4. So negative 4 plus 3 will be negative 1. So if you are finding maximum or minimum, in this case, what you see is a is 1. So 1 means a is a number greater than 0. So this will be a minimum. And the point will be negative 2, negative 1. So a student just now asked, can we use the second formula I taught you? Yes, you can. If you are using this formula, your A, B, C, your B is 4. So you have negative there is the remain, and your A is 1. So you will still get negative 2. Your X value will be the same. How to find your Y value? Put it back into this function. So your function is x squared plus 4x plus 3. So put it back. So you have negative 2 squared. Put your negative 2. 4 times negative 2 plus 3. So what you have? 4 minus 8 plus 3. So you get negative 1. And we know here the point is negative 2, negative 1. Is it maximum minimum? Since your A is greater than 0, A is greater than 0, so it's a minimum point. So these are the 2 methods you can use. Most of the time you are taught in school using completing the square. This is another way to solve it. Okay, I hope this will answer the question of the 2 students, how to do the completing the square and how to find maximum and minimum using this formula. Okay, I think there is no more question. So thank you, everyone. Good night, wherever you are. See you next week.
Okay, thank you, Miss Rani. Hopefully we have definitely learned a lot and hopefully we have a clear thought for this AdMath session. And tomorrow's session will be maths by Mr. William from 8 o'clock onwards. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night.